Revealed: how a billionaire woman's heartfelt encounter with a homeless boy changed lives forever. Jessica Harrington, a billionaire CEO known for her extravagant lifestyle, stepped onto the cracked pavement of her childhood neighborhood, her heart heavy with the weight of memories. The sound of children's laughter danced around her like a bittersweet melody, reminding her of the simpler days when joy didn't come with a price tag. But the echoes of the past also whispered of hardships endured by her late father, a diligent veteran whose sacrifices shaped the foundation of her success. The hustle and bustle of the city had transformed, yet the stark economic divide remained as palpable as ever, showing just how far life could rise or fall within a few blocks. As she walked towards a familiar diner, nostalgia tangled with a deep-rooted guilt. The diner, once a haven of warmth, now sat shrouded in shadows, each alley hiding stories of broken dreams. That's when she spotted him. David, a 12-year-old boy with hopeful eyes scavenging for leftover scraps behind the diner. A wave of sorrow crashed over her as she recalled her own childhood struggles. She approached him, crouching beside the scattered trash. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" she asked, her heart racing at the way his innocence hit her like a freight train. "I want to be an artist," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, yet infused with the kind of passion that struck a chord deep within her. His gaze sparkled with ambition, despite the murky waters of his circumstances. The sight of this boy, full of dreams amidst despair, ripped at Jessica's heart, making her self-reflective walls fall down. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a swirl of determination, Jessica began to organize a food drive and an after-school program to help children like David in his community. Yet, as she reached out, the locals eyed her with skepticism. "What does she know about our lives?" they muttered. Each disapproving glance felt like a dagger, amplifying Jessica's internal conflict. It stung. She understood their struggle in theory, but could she truly bridge the gap? Then, just as hope began to glimmer, a con artist attempted to exploit her goodwill. But in a twist of fate, David exposed the scam while affirming his intelligence, a proud smile breaking across his face.
Jessica's heart raced. Here was a boy who shared not just her past, but her fierce determination to rise above it. In that moment of clarity, she understood the true essence of help. It wasn't about throwing money at problems, but about forging genuine connections. As she prepared to share her vision at the upcoming community meeting, anxiety mingled with anticipation. Could she conquer the barriers of doubt that loomed like cloudy shadows? Jessica's breath quickened, the weight of the moment pressing on her shoulders. Would she be able to change hearts and minds, or would the ghosts of their pasts keep them forever apart? The stage felt like the edge of a precipice, and as she stepped forward, her defining moment awaited. The air thickened with possibility, leaving all questions eager to unfold. Jessica stood in front of the community center, her palms clammy, heart racing. The small room was filled with neighbors and parents, each face a canvas of skepticism, drawing their lives against the backdrop of her wealth. This wasn't just a meeting, it felt like stepping into a lion's den. She caught David's eye across the room. His eagerness brought her comfort. He was sitting quietly, sketching something on a scrap of paper, his brows furrowed in concentration. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice trembling slightly. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "I know I'm not from here anymore, but I want to help." The skepticism was palpable. Someone in the back snorted. "Help? What do you know about help?" She took a deep breath. It was now or never. "I grew up not far from here. I know what it's like to struggle. It shaped me, but I want to channel that into something good for our future." A few heads turned, their curiosity piqued. She felt a flicker of hope, but it was fleeting. "I'm ready to start an after-school program. We have art classes, tutoring for kids who need extra help, and a food drive to make sure everyone has something to eat," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "Kids like David have dreams, and I want to help them achieve those dreams." Around the room, raised eyebrows met her words. She saw the hesitation, but also something softening. They had questions, fears. She needed them to understand she was here to support, not to impose. Anyone can see me as just a billionaire, she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. But what matters most is that I was once a kid, just like you. I had dreams too. I'm not here to take away those dreams, but to help them flourish. A hand shot up, a woman with tired eyes who looked like she had seen too many struggles. How do we know you won't just leave when you get bored? This community has been failed too many times. Jessica felt her heart sink, but she approached it not with defensiveness, but sincerity. You're right to question me. Trust is earned, not given. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home too. I'll be here, and I'd like you all to hold me accountable.
Let's build this together. The quiet in the room thickened, as if everyone were digesting her words. Slowly, a truth began to sparkle in David's hopeful eyes. She couldn't fail him now, not when he had seen her for who she was, and not some figure wrapped in money. After her speech, she felt lighter, yet the air was charged with tension. She knew it wasn't enough to just speak. Tomorrow she'd host a workshop at the community center to start laying the groundwork for the after-school program. Maybe, just maybe, it would bridge some of those divides. Just as the small crowd began to disperse, David approached her, his sketchbook in hand. "Did you mean what you said? Are you really going to start classes?" "Yes, I promise, David," she said, kneeling to meet his hopeful gaze. "And I need your help. You're the kind of talent I want to inspire others." His smile broke free, lighting up the room. At that moment, she knew she wouldn't stop. There would be obstacles, and not everyone would come around easily. But the connection they shared fueled her, offering both motivation and purpose. As she looked around the room, a thought stirred within her. Change wouldn't happen overnight. She would have to prove herself, but it would all begin with one simple truth. I believe in you. The first step towards transformation had been taken, but little did she know that the greatest challenge was yet to come. When the community eventually rallied, would they come together, or would past hurts remind them of why they needed to stay apart? The sun was just beginning to rise the next morning, casting a warm glow over the community center. Jessica stood in her kitchen, nerves bouncing inside her. She'd spent half the night planning the workshop, but the reality of what lay ahead felt overwhelming. Today was a chance to solidify her commitment, but what if her plans fell flat? With a sigh, she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. She poured herself a cup of coffee, taking a moment to breathe it in. The rich aroma anchored her. This was her new mission, her first step toward making a difference, and she wasn't going to let anxiety hold her back. At the community center, tables were set up in a horseshoe shape, materials for art and tutoring stacked neatly in corners. She had made phone calls, posted online, and even knocked on doors, all together families for this first meeting. The thought of eager faces waiting for her filled her with a mix of dread and excitement. A chance to connect, to remember why she was here. As parents and kids began to trickle in, she felt that flicker of hope ignite again. There was David, holding his sketchbook close, his art a reflection of his soul. He smiled up at her, and she couldn't help but return the gesture. It was a small yet significant reminder. This was all for the children, for their dreams, aspirations, and futures. "Thank you all for coming," she greeted, her voice steadying. The room was alive with chatter, kids darting to find seats, while parents exchanged glances of curiosity and skepticism. "I really appreciate this opportunity to start fresh with all of you." Jessica shared her plan for the after-school program with renewed vigor. The art classes, the tutoring, and the food drives were merely tools. The real goal was to foster a sense of community. She encouraged everyone to express their hopes and concerns. "Let's turn this community center into a place of joy, where kids can thrive," she exclaimed, scanning the room. While some faces were still etched with doubt, others were looking interested, willing to believe in her vision. Then came David, bright-eyed and eager. "Can I show everyone my art?" he asked, his hand shooting up. Jessica's heart soared. "Of course," she replied, motioning for him to come forward. He shared his sketches, the vibrancy in his drawings lighting up the room. With every stroke of his pencil, he conveyed emotions that resonated deeply with the audience. Jessica watched the once skeptical faces soften. She could see the barriers starting to dissolve, the whispers of encouragement growing. As the workshop continued, ideas flowed like the coffee in her cup. They brainstormed activities, discussed needs, and slowly but surely began to bond over shared visions for their children. For the first time, Jessica felt a real connection forming. Unity was more than a dream. It was becoming tangible. But just when she thought everything was going smoothly, an unexpected interruption broke the atmosphere. A man stood at the door, his appearance unkempt,
eyes dark with hardship. Silence fell across the room as everyone turned to stare. "Is this where the food drive is?" His voice was hoarse, revealing layers of struggle beneath it. Jessica felt her heart race, a mix of sympathy and uncertainty washing over her. Would the community accept him, or would old prejudices rear their heads? She took a step forward, feeling the weight of the moment. In that split second, she realized that this was not just about her plans anymore. It was about real life, and the community she hoped to help was on the cusp of transformation. Jessica locked eyes with the man. "Yes, it is," she replied, her voice steady. "You're welcome here." Inside, she wondered what the community's reaction would be. Would they extend a hand to him or shy away? This was the true test of her mission, and the pivotal moment didn't just lie in her vision, but in the choices they all made together. So, as the weight of their collective response hung in the air like a thick fog, a nervous anticipation filled the room. Would this be a breaking point or a breakthrough? Would they choose compassion or retreat into the shadows of their past? The silence in the room felt electric. Jessica was acutely aware of the tension in the air. Parents exchanged whispers, darting glances between the man at the door and each other.
Children, momentarily halting their chatter, shifted uncertainly in their seats. Jessica's heart raced. She needed to bridge the chasm that had suddenly appeared. "Could you tell us your name?" she asked him, her tone gentle and inviting. The man hesitated, his eyes flickering. "It's Mike," he said quietly. The name hung in the air, grounding the moment. "Thank you for being brave enough to come here, Mike," she replied, her eyes warm. "We're just starting a food drive, and we'd love your input on how we can make it more effective. Everyone has something to share." A few parents shifted uneasily, but then a woman in the back spoke up. "What do you think we should do, Mike?" He looked taken aback, clearly not expecting to be asked for his opinion. Mike hesitated again before responding. "Honestly, I've seen how food drives work from the other side. It's more than just handing out bags. It's about the people, making it feel welcoming, knowing you're not alone." Jessica felt a swell of gratitude. Mike's words wrapped around the room. They were raw and real, unfiltered in a way that cut through the discomfort like a knife. Other parents started murmuring. "He's right," someone agreed. "My cousin needed help once. It makes a difference when you feel seen." Hope flickered in Jessica's chest. That wall of doubt began to crack. Conversations sprang up around the room like sprouting seeds. They were no longer just ideas. They were stories, connections, a community reclaiming its heart. David, inspired by Mike's honesty, chimed in. "We could also draw pictures for the bags, to make people smile when they get them." His enthusiasm was infectious, and soon other children jumped in with ideas for art projects to add cheer to the food drive. As inquiries transformed into promises of cooperation, Jessica caught sight of Mike, who stood at the edge of the group, visibly moved. His shoulders relaxed, and for the first time, a flicker of hope crossed his face. "See," she said softly to him, "this is what community looks like. We're coming together." From the back of the room, another voice spoke up, hesitantly at first. "I have some food supplies I can donate, and I'd like to help sort the bags." The speaker was a father, his brows knitted but determination strong in his eyes. "I'll bring my kids to help pack too," another mom added. Before the excitement snowballed, more and more hands raised, willing to help. As the meeting continued, Jessica breathed a little easier. She was gaining momentum, but a sense of urgency still lingered. The warmth that had started to fill the room was a stark contrast to the obstacles that lay ahead. Their collective willingness to change their responses filled her with hope. After the workshop, as the families began to mingle, Mike lingered, watching the joy unfolding around him. Jessica hesitated, wanting to speak to him but unsure. She could see the warmth of the community rekindled, but how would he feel after being welcomed and included? Finally, he turned towards her, eyes glistening with mixed emotions. "Thank you. I didn't expect this," he said. "You deserved it," Jessica replied, the weight of their shared experience hanging in the air. But just as she felt a sense of victory, a sobering thought struck her. She realized the true challenge was yet to come. The collaborative spirit they had ignited needed nurturing every single day. What would happen when the initial excitement faded? Would they still stand by each other? Now, armed with resolve, but facing the uncertainty that lay ahead, Jessica knew it was time to put her heart into action beyond this moment. As night began to fall and families made their way home, she felt a whisper of doubt creeping back in. It wasn't just about activities, it was also about building trust. What if the community struggled to maintain what they'd just begun to forge? As she locked up the community center, the door clicked shut behind her, and she took a deep breath, staring at the sky filled with stars.
Could they keep this connection alive? Would she be enough to lead them through the challenges ahead? The road to transformation was just beginning, and the critical question loomed larger than ever. Would they embrace the changes and support each other when times got tough? Jessica took a deep breath, letting the chill of the evening air wash over her. The stars twinkled mockingly, reminding her of the weight she carried. She couldn't shake off the worry tugging at her innermost thoughts. She had ignited a spark. Now came the real test of nurturing the flame. As she walked to her car, a gentle rustle drew her attention. There, huddled beneath a tattered blanket in the shadows near the entrance, was a boy no older than 10. His face was smudged with dirt, and his eyes, wide and bright, seemed to reflect both curiosity and fear. "Hey there," Jessica called softly, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "Are you all right?" The boy hesitated, studying her for a moment before responding, "I'm fine," but Jessica could see the tremor in his hands and the tears threatening to spill. Something inside her stirred. He reminded her of the community she had just begun to rally, a forgotten soul amidst surrounding warmth. "Would you like something to eat?" she asked, instinctively reaching into her bag where she always kept a few snacks. The boy shrugged, but his eyes revealed his hunger. After rummaging through the bag, she handed him a granola bar. His small hands clutched it as if it were a treasure. There was something poignant in that moment, not just about the food, but the act of sharing. It filled both their hearts in ways words could not express. "Thank you," he murmured, barely above a whisper. Jessica felt her resolve strengthen. She realized that kindness enveloped the whole community she was beginning to foster.
It wasn't just the families who gathered in the center. It was also the invisible threads connecting those like this boy to heartbeats filled with hope. "What's your name?" she asked, intrigued by him. "Sam," he replied shyly, finally meeting her gaze. "Nice to meet you, Sam. I'm Jessica. Have you been living out here long?" Sam looked down, fiddling with the corners of the blanket. "A while. I just go where it's safe." His voice cracked, and for a moment Jessica felt as if she had plunged into a chilling sea of guilt and sadness. The world of trust was hard to navigate if you felt invisible. For a second, silence enveloped them. Jessica leaned in closer. "You know, Sam," she started, her heart racing, "I'm helping organize a food drive. The goal is to create a welcoming environment for everyone. Would you like to help?" His eyes widened as if this was a light breaking through the dark. "Really? I can help?" "Of course. Everyone has something to share. You could be part of this too." "But I don't have anything to give." His voice was weak, but the spark of hope lingered. "Just being there is enough," Jessica reassured him, her own heart swelling. "You can lend a hand, share your thoughts and stories. They matter." As they spoke, her mind wandered to the community meeting, her fears that their willingness might be fleeting. She could already see the flicker in Sam's eyes, a desire to be part of something much larger than himself. "Can I come?" he asked suddenly, hopefully. "Absolutely, if you want to. Let's get you something to eat and I can take you to the center tomorrow." Sam nodded slowly, a shy smile breaking through the clouds of his worry. The emotional shift was palpable between them, a mix of trust and connection. As Jessica drove Sam to share dinner at the community center the next day, her heart felt lighter. But as she turned the corner, she noticed a gathering of concerned faces anxiously whispering to one another outside the center. Right away, a wave of unease washed over her. "What's wrong?" she asked herself quietly, dread curling in her stomach. What could have gone awry? The moment they arrived, the uncertainty thickened. Jessica steeled herself to find out what awaited them, and then she understood. The weight of the real challenge had just begun. Would they embrace even those who fell through the cracks, or would fear and misunderstanding let the darkness creep back in? Jessica parked the car and turned to Sam, who was staring wide-eyed at the scene unfolding before them. The low murmurs grew louder, and several adults stood with crossed arms, their postures tense. Jessica felt her heart race, a mix of determination and apprehension. "Stay close to me, okay?" she murmured, wanting to protect Sam from whatever storm awaited. As they stepped out, a familiar voice rose above the whispers. It was Mrs. Henderson, a prominent figure in the community who had been the one to rally support for the center. "This isn't right. We can't open our doors to just anyone. What about our safety?" Jessica's stomach dropped. Mrs. Henderson, so often the beacon of hope, seemed to be turning away from the very cause they had fought to build. The crowd responded with nods and murmurs of agreement. Fear had a way of spreading, and Jessica could feel its cold grip tightening around them.
Please, Jessica called, stepping forward. I know this may feel uncertain, but we must remember why we started this. To bring everyone together, a place for everyone regardless of their situation. Easy for you to say, chimed in a younger man, shrugging dismissively. You haven't had to deal with the risks. What if bringing them in puts us in danger? Every word felt like a dagger, twisting Jessica's hopes. She glanced at Sam, whose small figure seemed dwarfed by the bickering adults. He fidgeted with the granola bar wrapper, clearly distressed. What would it take to change their hearts, to remind them of human connection? Listen, Jessica raised her voice, trying to calm the brewing storm. Sam is just a kid. He deserves to be part of our community, just like everyone else. Isn't that what we're all about? But can we trust him? Another voice called out, a woman stepping forward with worried eyes. What if he brings trouble? Jessica held her breath. The lump in her throat tightened. She turned to Sam, noting the mixture of fear and defiance hardening in his gaze. Sam, remember what we talked about. Telling your story can help. It can open hearts. He hesitated, eyes darting nervously over the gathering, but nodded. I used to have a home. It wasn't safe, so I ran away. His quiet voice faltered, but the truth hung in the air, hanging on every word. The crowd fell silent. The power of vulnerability dulled the tension, if only for a moment. As Sam shared fragments of his life, the humanity within him sparked like a flame. Jessica felt hopeful. This was the connection they needed. We can stand together, she urged, longing for them to see beyond their fears. Together, we can forge a safety net for everyone. But as the crowd began to shift, the whispers took on a new tone. Slowly, a few people stepped forward, touched by Sam's courage. Yet others retreated into their shells of apprehension. I'm sorry, dear, Mrs. Henderson responded, her tone softening, but doubt still enveloped her words. We can't take such risks. Jessica's resolve began to crack under the weight of disbelief. Is safety only defined by walls, or can it also be found in understanding and compassion? The argument hung between them like a razor's edge. Just as she felt the situation slip further from her grasp, another figure emerged from the crowd, Tom, an older gentleman who'd been a regular fixture at the center. His voice, steady and calm, broke through the hesitation. I've seen tough times. I felt invisible. Let's remember that we're stronger together.
More heads turned, drawn by his story. If we shut our doors out of fear, we lose a piece of ourselves. His gaze shifted to Sam, who stood frozen beside Jessica, trying to draw strength from her presence. The air thickened with possibility. As community walls blurred, what would they choose? And just then, a flicker ignited in Julia, a single mother from the crowd. My daughter made me promise we would share what we have. If we can't help them, who are we really? Jessica's heart raced. The tide was shifting, breaking through layers of doubt. Yet doubt still loomed. Would they embrace the boy, or would they allow fear to lock them away from compassion? The question echoed in her mind as she caught Sam's eye, uncertainty mingling with hope. Would today mark a new beginning, or simply another missed opportunity? She held her breath, waiting for the answers that would shape their future. Jessica caught a glimpse of a father holding his daughter close, as if both were suddenly aware of their strength in speaking out. Then a voice rose from the back, a man Jessica recognized from the community garden meetings. "We can't judge someone's past. We can only support their future. I've made mistakes, but I've found a home here. Can't we do the same for him?" The emotions in the gathering swelled, hope weaving its way through the collective heartbeat of the crowd. Jessica allowed herself a small smile, but it flickered with uncertainty. They were still on the edge, teetering between fear and acceptance. But just as she thought the tide had turned, another voice chimed in. "We're talking about our children's safety. What if he brings trouble?" Someone shouted, and in that instant, skepticism surged again, darkening the previously hopeful atmosphere. The moment hung, stretching thin. Jessica could see the doubts creeping back like shadows, dulling the light of possibility. "We can't let fear win," she shouted, desperation bleeding into her tone. "Why can't we choose compassion?" Suddenly, Mrs. Henderson spoke up again, her voice stronger this time. "Compassion has to come with caution," she replied, though her words lacked the conviction they had moments before. Jessica could see the internal struggle play out on her face, and it pierced to Jessica's heart. "It's not just about safety," she continued, her voice pleading. "It's about opening our hearts. If we close our doors, we lose so much more than we gain." The crowd fell silent, considering her words. Jessica could feel the weight of the moment press down like an enormous weight, and above it all hung Sam, waiting for their decision. In that longing pause, something shifted, a dawning realization among the people. Would they rise above their fears? Would they take the step into the unknown? And as the silence stretched, a child's voice piped up from the back. "I think he's brave. Can we keep him?" Hope surged anew. Jessica looked at Sam, whose eyes sparkled with cautious optimism. If they could only take that step together. But would fear latch back on, or would this time be different? The need for an answer hung on the air, electrifying, as the crowd waited. That child's voice seemed to crack the tension like a fragile glass under too much weight. Jessica looked back toward the little girl, her innocent enthusiasm breaking through the deep-set fears of the adults. The crowd shifted once more, a murmur of surprise and reflection weaving its way through the onlookers. "I think he's brave," the girl repeated, her earnestness brightening the dim atmosphere. With those words, it was like a pin had pricked the giant balloon of fear, sending ripples of acknowledgement among the crowd. Heads turned to one another, some even glancing at Sam, who stood rooted but hopeful, his heart thudding in sync with the crowd's emerging thought. Perhaps they could be brave too.
Jessica felt something swell inside her. Could they really do this? Could this town be the kind of place that welcomed everyone, regardless of their past? The smiles started as soft flickers before transforming into a palpable wave of acceptance. "Yeah," another child echoed from the back, this time from a teenage boy, who pushed back his glasses as if that lent him some extra courage. "Why not give him a chance? We all deserve a chance." As each voice joined in, Jessica felt a chorus of support rising. Sam's shoulders relaxed slightly, the taut lines of doubt easing. They were starting to harness the strength she knew was there all along, a latent spark within this community, a spark they could fan into a flame of acceptance. But just as she felt hope solidifying, a heavy voice rang out again, halting the momentum. "This is reckless. We can't take in someone who could threaten our children." The speaker, a broad-shouldered man with a scowl etched onto his face, stood firm, embodying the old guard's fears that hadn't yet melted in the light of compassion. "Are we really going to let fear dictate our actions?" Sam called out, his voice rising above the din, filled with a mixture of resolve and desperation. "What's really unsafe is closing our hearts. I promise I'll do my best to show you I belong here." The man huffed, arms crossed resolutely against his chest, immovable like a stone wall. A palpable unease rolled through the crowd again, reminding them of the fear that had held them captive for so long. "Come on, folks," said a woman toward the front, her voice steady but gentle. "We've all made choices we regret. Why can't we be the place where people can change? If we turn him away, who else are we turning away?" Silence hung like a thin thread, taunting and fragile. The initial wave of support seemed to waver, but Jessica refused to let it. "Who are we if we're too afraid to offer kindness? We have to make this decision together, as a community." Then Jessica felt a tug at her,
deep and earnest. She glanced over at Sam, whose gaze flickered directly to the man who had confronted him. "I know what it's like to be judged," Sam said quietly, yet his voice carried through the hushed gathering. "But I fought hard to become who I am today. I don't want pity. Just give me a chance to show you that I can be one of you." Another ripple coursed through the crowd. The man glanced at his neighbors, uncertain, the hesitancy creeping back in. Jessica could see the doubt on some faces, but also the glimmers of understanding igniting too. It was a delicate balance, but she could sense the tide shifting once more. One voice rose taller than the rest, Mrs. Henderson's, her eyes blazing now with determination. "Let us not be defined by our fears. Let Sam show us who he is. If it goes wrong, we will deal with that. But first, let's take this brave step together."
For a moment, Jessica thought they might finally be seen as something more than a collection of faces in the crowd. The strength of the moment swelled, pulsating amongst the people, offering them a choice. Would they cast aside their fears and embrace hope? As the crowd began to murmur uncertainly, Jessica felt herself anchored in precarious anticipation. All eyes were on Sam now. Would he step forward and take the chance they were willing to offer? Or would doubt snuff out the light they had begun to kindle? Could one boy truly change everything? The silence stretched long, each heartbeat echoing in the tension-filled air. Jessica's gaze bounced between Sam and the hardened man, the tension between them almost electric. It felt like the moment before a storm, heavy in the air, charged with possibility. Then, all at once, Sam took a deep breath. He stepped forward, the crowd parting like waves around him. "Thank you," he said simply, the sincerity in his voice palpable. "I've never asked for much. Just a chance to show I'm more than my past." His words landed softly, and Jessica saw some of the anger fade from the man's countenance. For the first time, doubt flickered on his face, replaced by a hesitant curiosity. What if Sam was more than the labels others had stuck to him? Behind Sam, the crowd had shifted slightly, forming an unintentional semicircle, drawn in by his earnestness. A flicker of hope glimmered in their eyes, though fear still wove through them like a stubborn shadow. Then, with a voice like iron, the broad-shouldered man spoke again, his tone softer but still steeled. "And if something goes wrong? If he turns on us?" His words hung heavy, a weight of responsibility carried by each member of the crowd. Jessica took a step forward too, emboldened by Sam's willingness. "That's a risk we take every day, isn't it? With our own neighbors, with our children? We can't let fear drown out our compassion. We're stronger together." At her words, murmurs spiraled through the crowd, a mix of agreement and persistent worry. But Jessica caught glimpses of determination emerging. Sam wasn't alone in this. They were standing together, emerging from the shadows of apprehension. "I can't guarantee what will happen," Sam said, his voice steady now. "But I promise to work hard, to make something of myself. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for the chance to be a part of this community." Then Jessica saw it, a shift. In the face of the man, who had seemed immovable moments before, a faint crease of consideration softened his brows. Maybe he was beginning to see Sam not as a threat, but as a possibility. A little boy from the side stepped up, his small hand raised timidly. "My dad says everyone makes mistakes, even me." The whole crowd turned at the innocent honesty of that child. The weight of his words carried beyond his years, sowing seeds of reflection on the faces around them. One by one, quiet voices began to lift, support rising like a tide. "We all deserve a second chance," an older woman said, her eyes glistening. "Have we not all fought our own battles?" Suddenly, the tight-knit group began to respond, nodding at one another, voices overlapping, weaving a tapestry of support. Sam stood still, his heart racing, a cautious smile creeping onto his lips. Hope was taking root where fear had reigned so long. As the cacophony of voices filled the space, Jessica drew in a breath. The fight was far from over, but this moment felt monumental. The chains of fear were beginning to crack, even as the man still debated behind furrowed brows. "Maybe we don't have to say yes right away," he said finally, his voice carrying a weight of uncertainty. "But we can watch. We can give him time. Isn't that what we do for each other?" Jessica's heart surged. They were making progress. But just as the atmosphere seemed to lift,
A voice cut through the excitement. "And what if he's waiting for a chance to hurt us?" It was a sharp, piercing objection from a woman in the back. All eyes shifted toward her as the tension returned. In that moment, Jessica understood they were standing at a crucial crossroads. Would their budding hope continue to grow, or would old fears rise again to extinguish it? The crowd held its breath. Jessica felt the wave of anticipation wash over them. What choice would they ultimately make? Would they lean into compassion, or step back into fear? The question loomed large, heavy with uncertainty, as the atmosphere thickened with emotion once more. Would this be their turning point, or would doubt once again shadow their resolve? Jessica's heart thudded as she realized this gathering was not just defining Sam's future. It felt like it was shaping their collective destiny. Would they take that leap of faith together? As the crowd wrestled with uncertainty, Jessica noticed Sam's small frame vibrating with apprehension. Every silent moment stretched painfully, thousands of questions swirling in the air. Sensing his vulnerability, Jessica stepped closer to him, a gentle assurance flowing between them. It was their moment, one that could alter the very fabric of their community. "This is bigger than just you and me, Sam," she whispered, giving him a warm smile. "It's about all of us finding strength together. Whatever happens, I believe in you." Sam looked up, the flicker of courage ignited anew in his eyes. "We're all just trying to feel safe, right? I want to help." His words echoed in the heavy silence, carrying hope through the hearts of those assembled. "I remember being scared too," Jessica declared, addressing the crowd boldly. "Being judged when all you want is to be seen. It's painful. We're all human. We've all been through something. It's time to extend a hand instead of building walls." The murmurs grew louder, and the weight of Jessica's words resonated deeply.
They were done with the fear that had trapped them for too long. "Let's give him that chance," someone shouted, emboldened by a swell of newfound support. "If it doesn't work out, we can address it later." Over the ripple of agreement, the doubt began to fade, lessening the grip of fear on their hearts. "Exactly," echoed Tom, nodding in solidarity. "This community has the power to lift each other up. By allowing Sam in, we declare that we'll rise together." With those words igniting the room into a united front, Jessica felt her heart race. Yes, they could embrace vulnerability, dismantling preconceived notions one compassionate act at a time. All around her, spirits lifted. A hesitant grin broke across Sam's face as eyes widened with acceptance. As people nodded and murmured encouragement, the once harsh atmosphere shifted into a tapestry of kindness and connection. "All right," Mrs. Henderson finally chimed in, her voice breaking with emotion. "Let's welcome Sam, but we'll agree to keep an open dialogue. We're here to support each other as a family." She stepped toward Sam with outstretched arms, her usual stoicism melting away. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice trembling under the weight of gratitude, glistening with tears he fought to hold back. The crowd erupted in applause, smiles breaking out like sun rays piercing through clouds. As Sam hugged Mrs. Henderson, a wave of warmth unfolded around them, a beautiful testament to human connection. Jessica looked around, her heart swelling with joy. This was it. They had broken through. "Let's celebrate this new beginning," Jessica encouraged, her voice vibrating with excitement. "Let's build together, and let's make this community a haven for everyone, no exceptions." People began to chatter again, the laughter filtering into the air like fresh morning light. Plans were exchanged, volunteers sprang up, and the vibe of optimism filled every corner of the space. They were sculpting possibilities, and the future didn't feel so daunting anymore. As the evening faded, they gathered their thoughts, smiles cementing the promise of tomorrow. Sam, now embraced by the community, felt seen for the first time. With each passing moment, his worries evaporated. Jessica knew that this was just the beginning. Challenges would come, they always did, but as she watched Sam sketch new dreams filled with bright colors and the families melding into bonds forged in trust, she felt a surge of confidence. They could be more than individuals. They could be a home. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hug around them, a reminder of resilience and hope. "Keep shining bright, Sam," she whispered softly as she sat beside him, the final thread tying them together. As Sam beamed back at her, the echo of laughter mixed with warmth wrapped around them. They were ready to face tomorrow.
And so, the heart of the community began to flourish in unexpected ways. An artist igniting brilliance, a billionaire paving the way for connection, and a shared journey that would elevate them all. This was transformation. Now, dear viewers, it's your turn.
You need to subscribe now to witness the next chapter of lives changed forever. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the positivity flowing. Comment your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. Let us know how this story touched you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything to us.